Wilt Chamberlain, one of the true powers of the NBA, playing inspired basketball.
And Chamberlain dumps it.
Chamberlain again underneath. Blocked by Chamberlain. A great block by Chamberlain.
With his extraordinary height, he can do things beyond the reach of the ordinary player.
He averaged 50 points a game one season. That's his average, 50, every game.
Great shot by Chamberlain.
We've known for years that Wilt could score with the best of them. But this year, we got the goal that he wanted.
It's about a giant. A basketball giant. Part fable, all real. His name was Wilton Norman Chamberlain. They called him the Big Dipper. 7 feet, 1 inch tall, and as athletic as any man who ever walked the earth. You try guarding that on a basketball court sometime. He played the game like no one had ever seen. He did things no one might ever see again. Like that night, 50 years ago, when he scored 100 points. That's right, 100 points. The game wasn't on TV, just some pictures remain. But you better believe that night lives on in the memories of those who saw it and will never, ever forget it.
The most amazing scoring performance of all time. 100 points for the Big Dipper.
And that's what's so perfect about that night he scored 100 points. Because all the mystery surrounding the truth has always kept people wondering how it happened.
There's a great mistake about this. Let's be honest about it. Nobody knew where the hell they were. Only one guy was there to report it. There were always questions about the game.
(1962). Wilt Chamberlain of the Philadelphia Warriors had a season for the ages, the most dominant year by a player in the NBA, if not any sport. Chamberlain averaged over 50 points and 25 rebounds per game. His most incredible performance came on the night of March 2nd, as the Warriors met the New York Knicks in Hershey, Pennsylvania.
On March 2nd, 1962, the Philadelphia Warriors hosted the New York Knicks in Hershey, Pennsylvania. Wilt Chamberlain came into that game already well on his way to becoming the game's most unstoppable force. He had erupted onto the scene in 1959, winning Rookie of the Year and MVP honors in the same season. And now, in only his third year, he was scoring at a jaw-dropping level.
We went straight to the arena where we had to wait around for 5 or 6 hours for the game.
They were there so early that they had something to while away their time by going here into this penny arcade, which is quite different today than it was then. Because right over in this section was a shooting gallery.
And I started shooting rifles and so on and so forth, and I couldn't miss anything. And one of my closest friends, Ike Richmond, he had talked to the guy out the door who had worked in the arena for 20 years and said the highest numbers ever posted here was such and such a thing. So he would bet me that I couldn't beat that, but I just blew all the numbers away. So if there was ever a clue that I was going to have a high day, this was definitely the clue.
Harvey Pollack has worked for the NBA since the league started in 1946. He still works for the 76ers. And he was the one keeping score that night in Hershey.
50 years ago, I was here on this floor when Wilt got that 100 points. Some people don't even think the game was ever played. In fact, there have been several articles written which say that this game was a figment of Harvey Pollack's imagination. I want to congratulate myself for thinking of such a thing.
Harvey was there, but most of his colleagues in the press didn't make the trip.
The New York guys didn't cover it at all. Who wants to take a bus ride from New York to Hershey on a Friday night in March?
There was one writer from the Philadelphia papers who covered the game. Virtually no press. Harvey covered it for everybody.
I was the PR director of the Warriors, the game statistician, the writer for the Philadelphia Inquirer, the Associated Press, and United Press International. I've been in the NBA for 65 years, and this was by far the busiest night of my career. So I needed 100 points. I got a hole in the head.
And when they got into the arena and found some empty seats, what they saw down on the floor was an unstoppable basketball force. 25-year-old Wilt Chamberlain, at the height of his powers, making virtually every shot he took.
I was shooting out of realms I normally don't shoot it. I usually stayed pretty much in the post, turn around pretty with jump shots, but I was shooting jump shots from a little bit of the top of the key and running around. I was really hitting very, very well.
He had 23 at the end of the first period. And I remember coming back to the huddle, and Richie Guerin comes in, and Richie says, kind of like in jest, he says, the big fella's going for 100 tonight.
Wilt always beat up on the Knicks. On this night, he just feasted away. The Knicks had only one other choice with Wilt: foul him.
At that time, certainly, he was one of the worst free throw shooters in the league. And what people couldn't understand is he could put the ball in the basket with three guys hanging off his arms, some guy biting him on the shin, and now you take everybody away, and it's like the basket is moving.
On this particular night, remember what we said earlier about the arcade, that a special night was in effect? Well, here's another special thing that happened. Well, didn't miss anything.
He took 14 foul shots in the first half, and he missed just one.
And so, Wilt begins now to build this Everest. He's going to be at 41 points at the half, 13 of them from the free throw line. So something big is going on here, but you still don't know how big.
If Wilt was going to ever score 100 points in a game, it was going to happen in that 61-62 season.
He actually put me in a position to have maybe the greatest single season that I think a basketball player could possibly ever have.
McGuire gave Wilt the key to the offense of this team. He gave him the key to the season. Said, go ahead, big fella, take it away. Let's see how high we can fly. And he starts throwing down these thunderbolts. He goes 48-25 the first game, 57, 32 rebounds the second, and then 53, 55, 43. Silly numbers, crazy numbers.
Wilt spins around his defender and garners points 47 and 48.
Frank McGuire had two rules. The offense always went through Wilt, and Wilt never left the floor.
In an 80-game season, he played 79 complete games. He missed 8 minutes of one game because he got thrown out. Other than that, he played every moment of every one of those games.
That was inconceivable to us. How the hell do you stay so strong all season? How do you avoid fouling out? How do you take a beating every night with guys pushing you, punching you, grabbing you, and come back the next night fresh as a daisy?
He's averaging 50. A bad night is 44.
He'd get 63. He'd get 70. I mean, miraculous things. We were in awe of what he was doing out there against the best players in the world.
Chamberlain's 61-62 season, it almost looks cartoon-like in its dominance. Michael Jordan scored 50 or more points 31 times in his career. Impressive. Wilt did it 45 times in one season.
So by March 2nd, with 5 games left in the season, anything seemed possible for Wilt.
3 or 4 weeks earlier than that, Frank McGuire had said to the press, well, one day soon, Wilt will probably score 100 points.
In Hershey, remember, he had 41 at halftime. But in the third quarter, he picked up the pace to make his coach's prediction a real possibility.
Rogers takes the jump shot. It's no good. Chamberlain with a rebound. Pops it in. He's got another one. We're just conjecturing here how many can he make.
At the end of the third, he had 69. And as the fourth began, he wasn't about to slow down.
Inside to Chamberlain. He's got it. Chamberlain has 75.
A flood of some sort. It was magnificent.
If you're listening on the radio in Philly, announcer Bill Campbell was keeping you posted on Wilt. But if you were in the arena, it was legendary Philadelphia PA announcer Dave Zinkoff.
He was in his glory because he was announcing every point in the second half that Wilt scored. As the game wore on, all the people in the audience followed the Zink and made like a chorus, like it was a musical with a chorus in the background.
There's an announcement by Dave Zinkoff. On the PA, they're announcing the new record of 79, and during the announcement, Chamberlain goes right ahead through the announcement and makes a foul. He now has 81 points.
Zinkoff is informing the Warriors. This is how much further you need to go to get to the top of Everest.
History being written tonight in Hershey. The big man has broken the record and he's gone for more. You know what's in the fans' mind? They're thinking of the magic number, 100. They're hollering, give it to Wilt. New York's got three men in front of him. Boy, they're belting Wilt around, too. He's got it now. And he bangs it in. He has 90 points. 90 points.
Everything now is intensified. It's the moment that, everyone is now clear what's at stake. And now the Knicks are playing to defend their good name, or what's left of their good name. Because if this happens, they know this much, that 50 years later, they're still going to be talking about this.
Remember how earlier in the game, Richie Guerin joked that the big fella's going to go for 100. Now, it didn't seem so funny to old Richie.
He would take a step back from nobody, and he did not want to see Wilt score 100 points.
Discussion now in the lane between Richie Guerin and Joe Rucklick. Guerin, who's really jabbering, they almost came to blows.
The Knicks were 20 points behind during the last 3 or 4 minutes of the game, and they were freezing the ball. You don't see a team losing by 20 or 30 freezing the ball.
The Knickerbockers just stalling for time, and they're booing the Knickerbockers.
And while they were freezing it, we were fouling them so that we'd get the ball back. And then consequently, when we did get the ball back, they were trying to foul our guards before the ball would get into Wilt.
But my teammates, once they got the ball, made sure they couldn't get fouled. They ran in positions where they couldn't be and got me the ball under any circumstances.
Parisi with the ball down the right side, passes to Chamberlain. He's open, he shoots, he scores. Chamberlain at 98. He's going for 1-0-0.
It was time for the last steps up the mountain.
1 minute and 1 second to play. He has 98 points. Rogers throws long to Chamberlain. He's got it. He's trying to get up. He shoots. No good. But the rebound, Luckenbill. Back to Chamberlain. He shoots up. No good. In and out. The rebound, Luckenbill. Back to Rucklick.
Joe Rucklick was Wilt's backup, so he never played. But now he had the ball in his hands and a big decision to make.
New York is everywhere. The time's running out, the fans are going nuts. Zink is probably yelling at me, Joe, get the ball to Wilt with the mic off. But the guys collapsed all around him, and I'm wide open. I've got a shot that's 12 feet. I can get into the score column in this game with a little quick jump shot.
But instead of the scoring column, Joe chose the history book.
I stop dribbling and I hold the ball, and I see Wilt moving around, and he says, "Ooh!" And he puts his hands like this. He bumps the guy off of his hip, and there he is. I threw in the ball. Boom, the rest is history.
To Rucklick, into Chamberlain. He made it! A zipper dunk. He made it! 100 points to Wilt Chamberlain. Fans are coming out of the stands.
After he scored, he ran back to be on defense. By the time he got in front of midcourt, the fans had already started coming out on the court.
They stopped the game. People are running out on the court. The Warriors
He was sort of perplexed. You know, well, what's he going to do? He just stood there and held the hands of everybody.
People are all over the court. They're taking pictures. Flash pads are going off. New York's ball off the Guerin. 4 seconds left. 3. New York will probably hold the ball.
Yet, there's still another unsolved mystery. What happened to the ball shot by Wilt to score his final basket?
Wilt went up and dunked the ball. The ball came down through there, and Wilt didn't touch the ball. The referee grabbed the ball when it came down, and he knew it was the 100th point, and he brought the ball over to me at the press table there.
That's Harvey Pollack's version. Kerry Ryman tells a different tale.
When Chamberlain scored his 100th point, the referee had the ball and he threw it to Wilt. By this time, I'm out onto the court. I was the first one there. I shook his hand, and when he bounced the ball on the court, I don't know why, but I took the ball. And up the steps I went. I took it because I wanted to play with it. And when I got home, my parents weren't too happy with what I did.
Eventually, the crowd of 4,000 left the Hershey Sports Arena, and Wilt went back to the locker room. That's where Harvey Pollack conceived of the image that perfectly captured the spirit of the night.
After the game, when I came in, Wilt was about over here, sitting here on a stool. I see this photographer standing there, and I said, "Did you take your pictures yet?" She said, "I don't know what to take." I said, "What can I do?" So I thought for a second, I looked over at Jim Heffernan at the bulletin, and I walked over.
Harvey asked me, "Do you have any paper, Hef?" And I said, I give him a piece of what we called copy paper then. That's what you wrote your story on.
And I said, "How about if I write 100 on the pad?" He said, "What are you going to do with that?" I said, "How about if I have Wilt hold this sign up here?" So I walked over to Wilt. I said, "Wilt, you see this sign? That indicates what you did here tonight. And the photographer's going to take a picture of you." He said, "Hey, great idea."
It's just Wilt sitting on this bench, and he's just kind of sheepishly looking at a camera, holding up a piece of paper. But it works. It's as great as any image that's ever been taken in basketball.
100 points. It's a perfect monument to the man. A number easy to remember, stunning to comprehend.
The NBA has been here since 1946. There's only been one guy in the history of the NBA score 100 points. There's only one.
Wilt's 100-point night is the statistical Everest. There's nothing in American sports that can come close.
The only sad part of telling the story 50 years later is that Wilt isn't around to talk about it with us.
I have a few big stories I tell, and they get a little bigger, like the fish stories. Well, this is the one true story that I must tell you. There was a little over 4,000 people there at the game, but I have at least 50,000 people who have told me, "Oh yeah, you know, I was there when you scored the 100 points." I said, "Oh yeah? Yeah, you know, I live in New York City, you know, so my father took me to the Garden, you understand, or, you know, some people would say Philadelphia. No one ever says Hershey, Pennsylvania, who tells me that story." But I think is what they're saying to you is that we remember you, Wilt, and the thing we remember the most about you was that 100-point game.
Chamberlain's storied 100-point ball has taken me all over the country, but so far, I've got just 2 conflicting eyewitness narratives. So I've made my way to San Francisco to speak with Gary Pomerantz, an NBA expert who has interviewed over 150 people about this game.
There are two stories, one from Kerry Ryman and one from Joe Rucklick. I talked with a number of people in Hershey who saw Kerry Ryman that night at the game, ball in hand, running out of the arena. The second story comes from Joe Rucklick. Joe was in the game at the end of this with Will. So Joe tells a story where he gets that ball, brings it back into the Warriors locker room, and puts it in Wilt's bag. And so then there's the third story.
Wait, there's a third story?
The referee took the ball out of play. The ball was given to Jeff Millman, who was then the ball boy, and then he became the long-term equipment man, takes the ball back to the locker room, puts the ball in Wilt's gear bag, and puts towels on top of it to hide the great treasure.
Up until this moment, I had no idea there was a third version of events. But since it comes from Jeff Millman, the very person responsible for the basketballs on the court, this narrative might hold some weight. I'd definitely like to sit down with Millman myself and hear his version of events. But I'm a little too late for that. Unfortunately, Jeff Millman passed away in 2013. Amazingly, though, his story didn't disappear with him.
This is an interview with Jeff Millman.
Gary recorded an interview with him and has lent me the tape so I can hear Jeff's account myself.
What was your role? Were you the assistant equipment manager in 61-62?
No, it's just a ball boy.
Well, let's go to that game.
Chamberlain open underneath. Remember when he scored the 100, that the ball went through the net, and the ref caught it. And I remember him handing it to the trainer and said, "This is an historic ball."
You heard him say that?
Yep. They stopped the game. People are running out on the court. And he handed it to me and said, "Put this somewhere." 100 points. So I went in the locker room, and we had these like real large duffel bags in those days, and I put it in Wilt's bag.
So you come back out and tell me what you see.
Everyone's on the court, and I remember a couple balls being thrown up in the air.
Just tossed as high as you could throw them in celebration?
Yep.
Is that right?
I believe we went home with 6, and we went up there with 12.
This really is new information. They were throwing multiple balls on the court, which means numerous people could have handled a ball at the end of the game.
So I never doubted the guy that tried to sell the ball as Wilt's ball.
In what sense?
I never doubted that it could be a ball from the game, but it was not the ball that went through the net for the 100th point. 28 points in professional basketball.
San Francisco with the ball, leading by 3. Wilt Chamberlain shoots. Al Apples. Rogers going in. Chamberlain crosses through. Rogers going in. Passing off to Chamberlain. He dunked it. Chamberlain has position, and he dunked it. That's McSherry with it. Into Chamberlain. Chamberlain scores. Chamberlain now has 20 points. Chamberlain in the pivot. The basket is good. He was fouled after shooting. Wilt Chamberlain shooting. Blocked by Chamberlain. Into Chamberlain. And he scores. A remarkable shot on a fine defensive play. Chamberlain laying it up. The basket is good. And he was fouled after shooting. Rebounded Chamberlain. Now Rogers over to Chamberlain underneath. Chamberlain scores. 75-64.
Chamberlain just so powerful. He just comes right down and forces the ball through.
Guy Rogers into Chamberlain. Wow! Look at this crowd. And he tips it. Into Chamberlain. What a shot! I noticed you were shaking your head when Chamberlain blocked the shot. Chamberlain really has a hot hand. Shot by Phillips. Chamberlain with the rebound. Chamberlain forces through. He's just so powerful. Wilt Chamberlain, big number 13. Again he scores. It's knocked in by Chamberlain. Blocked by Chamberlain. Chamberlain has it, taking it back. There's his shot. The crowd all rising, pounding on the seat. Into Chamberlain, he's deep. As exciting a basketball game as I've ever seen. 70 lead by 10.